Eve episode of Stringing Along. I'm Jim Donio.
And I'm Ronnie King.
Tonight's show, New Year's Eve, is called Tradition, New Year's Memories. And we are each going to talk about some of the most traditional and beloved performances that were very traditional over the years. And we are each, literally and figuratively, going to open our scrapbooks from our memories and talk about some of the moments that we recall, particularly thinking about here we are on New Year's Eve, and there won't be a Mummers Parade for the first time in our lifetimes tomorrow. But we have some great memories to share, and we know all of you do as well. Before we do get started, we just want to thank again our sponsor, MCS Residential Contractors, and its president, our good friend, Greg Meisinger. MCS provides pre-construction, design development, and quality controlled services. They will work with you, they'll work within your budget, they will follow all the proper safety procedures. It's such a great team of people, always professional, always delivering the final product that you're looking for. You can contact them at the number that's coming up right now on your screen. Estimates are free, they are licensed and insured, and all staff are OSHA Hour 30 trained. So definitely keep MCS in mind for your next project. So, Ron, give us sort of the context for what we're going to talk about on this New Year's Eve 2020.
Yeah, so full context on this is we're going to see 4 presentations of what Jim and I are calling traditional Mummers themes. They are laden with back pieces all throughout, and the costuming all pretty much similar throughout, and playing a lot of time-honored traditional songs that have been played and are a staple of every single musician's lyre book. So we're going to have fun with that. We're going to talk about our memories. Certainly we're going to talk about the costuming because it was different during these time periods. And the take that these 4 bands show us as their interpretation of a Mummers theme. And let's talk about who we have first up, Jim, because you know full well.
Yep. So the first performance we're going to highlight tonight takes us back to 1971. So this would be this New Year's Day would be the 50th anniversary of this performance. It is the last time that a band took first prize with a very traditional theme. And it is led by the gentleman known as the Dean of the String Bands. It's the Hegeman String Band with Rhythm and Beauty.
The Hegeman Band, by the way, was second in 1970, winning $2,370. They have 3 firsts to show for their efforts. Here they come, the Hegeman String Band, Rhythm and Beauty, Captain Al Fink.
So this performance has a lot of meaning for me, a lot of emotion connected for me. So first of all, when I had joined Hegeman the year after. I joined in '72, but I was following the parade, and I had actually created an actual scrapbook of news clippings. So you're going to see this clipping come up right now. This is actually a clipping of Hegeman, the Rhythm and Beauty costume performance that won on that New Year's Day. That was in my scrapbook. It's still in this scrapbook. I've had this scrapbook for 50 years, which is crazy. So it's a little yellowed with age. And it was just as it said. I mean, we talk about judges wanting to know exactly what you are and what you're doing. This was very simple and straightforward. It was beautiful, beautiful costumes, cerise, which is a pinkish, hot pinkish color, and silver, and just really classic plumed, 64 back pieces, beautiful captain suit, worn by Al Fink, the captain. So as I said, I joined the following year. Al was really very much like a grandfather to me. We did, as it relates to themes and performances, so we did butt heads. So here I was this 15-year-old full of all of these, ideas. I loved to draw, I loved to design. We talked about that a couple of shows ago. And so we did butt heads a little bit. The fact that tonight we're talking about tradition underscores how we butted heads, because Al, having been, in the parade for all his life, was a very traditional. He loved just beautiful suits and the snappy tunes. He was not a dancer. He was, of the generation where the captain just came out, presented, in all the glory of the beautiful costume. So I was in '72. I didn't march for that parade, but then I was involved and helped a little bit for the '73 performance, which was Winter Fantasy. So we had a little less tradition in that we had skiers and we had Frosty the Snowman. So there's a little more theme there. But '74, Al, he ruled, and we went right back to Dixie Banjo Kings. '75, I presented this idea of Philadelphia Sports Parade, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago as well. Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, 76ers. So Al he went along with that, but very much the next year, we went right back to, for '76, that great string band sound. That year is forever etched in my memory, because Al passed away the Saturday evening before the final Sunday show of shows at Philadelphia's Convention Hall. And for that final, we did the show that next day, that Sunday afternoon. We did the show, and there was just a lone, empty spotlight on the floor of the convention hall when we did that performance. And so it was a sudden loss for us, for the band, for the Mummers community. And he's just someone I will never forget. So knowing we were going to do a show about tradition, I could not but share those memories about Al. And so 50 years, it's a great moment in time to celebrate that traditional performance. So what do we have coming up next, Ron?
Next, we're going to go to the very following year. And this first prize comes to the Palmyra String Band of South Jersey for their theme, King Momus and His Jesters. And take a look at this, and then we'll talk about it. So how about that? Now, when you see this show come at you, you're seeing all of these back pieces. Now, take into consideration, um, these were not filmed at City Hall. These were filmed on South Broad Street, I believe, around the Methodist or St. Agnes Hospital. I believe it was St. Agnes.
Yes, St. Agnes, right.
So you get a different view of the bands than what we see today. As we spoke with Suzanne in one of the previous shows about production and camera shots. But imagine being there on the street and this band comes up and all of a sudden it appears that all of their back pieces break in half. They were collapsible. And what that was for was to create, we're talking about Mummer's tradition, their take on the Mummer's tradition is creating the very old fashioned, they're doing a tribute theme actually, but the very old fashioned captain's cape in which the king jockey is the centerpiece for that. And it's beautiful. I'm sure it wowed the crowds. I'm sure the judges were blown away. Is one of the reasons for their wins. You know, somewhere in the musical Gypsy Rose Lee, one of the dancers sings, "You gotta have a gimmick." They had the gimmick, and it worked, and it worked well.
Yeah.
Fantastic musicians in this organization. Palmyra was still at this point in the parade a relatively young band. Not only were they a young band, but this band manages to spawn off a number of very popular, talented musicians who went on to help and improve other string bands along the way, or just move on and go and do their own thing. Palmyra String Band was, as a result of the Palmyra String Band, you wound up having the South Jersey String Band, the South Jersey Palmyra String Band from a merger. Then that group of people wound up together again in their last couple of go-arounds as the Berlin String Band. So Palmyra's contribution to the parade it's numerous. You can't count it.
Yeah, that's significant. It's very significant. Yeah. So again, so we're turning another page in my scrapbook. So here, coming up right now, you can see the clipping from the next day reporting on Palmyra's victory, and they were just the second non-association band to win first prize. The Greater Bucks String Band had won in the mid 1960s, and Palmyra was next in 1972. And again, as Ron was saying, Charlie Mullner's first prize winning frame suit was, it was just one of those aha, wow, and as we always say, moments of impact, when all those back pieces drop down and they play the Mummers Reel, which was the song, the kind of bouncy song they were playing. You stop and you notice. And what's really interesting also, they marched last. So I wasn't in the parade yet. I was a fan still. And I was standing at St. Agnes Hospital. And, people watch the bands and they know the bands that are their favorites. And as you said, Palmyra was relatively new. It was not in the association. And they were last. A lot of people actually had left that area, had left the St. Agnes area. The crowd had really thinned, but I stayed. I was there until the last band, till the very end. And here they turn out to be the winner of the parade. Because as you said, the TV coverage was then at St. Agnes, which was pretty great, which was pretty amazing. So let's move on now a few more years. Now we're up to 1980. So by 1980, we'd seen fewer and fewer of these traditional themes every year. There were some themes that were a little more progressive in terms of the features that they included. But what's important to notice is that some bands still went back and from their creative theme committees, they still had this connection to tradition. So the next one we're going to look at is for 1980, the South Philadelphia String Band. It's very popular captain Jimmy Donaghy. They decided to pull out all the stops. They revisited a theme that they'd had actually won with 14 years before. It's the String Band Hit Parade with South Philadelphia String Band. Let's take a look. So this really, this is one of those performances that everyone remembers. It's 40 years ago. This is the archetype of the perfect traditional string band costume. The pleated gold lame, the plumage, the feather work, I mean, most of which is really gone now by 2020. We don't see this kind of feather work anymore. We don't really see these kinds of back pieces. What do you recall about that year, Ron? You were in the band, you weren't performing, but you actually went up the street with them, right?
Yeah, I'm a junior member in the band at this time. My father was a sax player in the band. This was full on Mum. I mean, everything that they played in the theme, unlike with Hegeman, where when they did Rhythm and Beauty, even though it was solidly a traditional Mummers theme, their music was not traditional. They just played whatever was popular at the time, some very wonderful standard songs, and it worked for them. And moving back to Palmyra for a second, they come up, they do a tribute to the Captain's Cape, as I mentioned, with this gimmick of the collapsible back pieces. Now you have South Philadelphia, 67 members strong, all back pieces, all in the same identical costuming. So no matter which way they turned, which way they moved about, everybody on the street, and this is one of the things where our transformations into a newer type of show really had a tendency to bite us a little bit. And what I mean by that is that this is the traditional theme that people clamor for. If you were standing along South Broad Street to watch this band perform, everybody, whether you were standing out front, along the sides, or even in the back, when that back line turns around and faces away from their own band to see the crowd behind them, everybody is seeing the show. Everybody. And that's one of the things that we had gotten away from. But even more than that, I just wanted to make that point clear that this is the solid traditional theme that we are talking about.
Yeah.
The music was.
I was just going to say, we also see the white gloves.
I know the white gloves very well. Those white gloves. My father was one of the people working on the costumes at that point. He comes home with boxes of the white gloves. Now, of course, all the fingers had to be cut off for the guys playing banjos and everything like that. But we adorned them. This is how involved the costuming got. That costume was beautiful from head to toe. I believe it was designed by Russ Fama. They were insistent to even go to the extent of putting spangles on their gloves, on the white gloves. So we traditionally wore white gloves back then. All bands did, but these went a step further. Not only that, Jim, what was the footwear like?
The footwear were, we all wore white bucks. I think we have a photo of the white bucks that's coming up now for you to see. This was, some bands did wear literally golden slippers. So if the theme was appropriate, maybe they were wearing shoes that were gold or sprayed gold or glittered gold. But one of the signature items that you had to buy when you started to be in a string band were white bucks.
White bucks. Do you know where most of those people got white bucks back then?
I know you were going to say that I can't put my head to the name of the store, but I do remember there was just basically one place.
Right on the Black Horse Pike and Nicholson Road in what is now called West Collingswood Heights. It's Haddon Township. It was a place called Ruby Shoes.
Ruby Shoes, yes.
And that's where everybody went to get
your white bucks.
Your white bucks. There's a lot more to be said about this theme in the way of the music arrangement was just very straightforward. Like I mentioned, every song was a staple. That music was written and arranged by the late and great Don Morrissey. Don Morrissey, great guy. I spoke about it before, but just as a memory, I'm just going to throw in there now because I'm going to talk a lot later. Don Morrissey gave me my first music test when I was just 12 years old, and that's a great memory for me. Sam Hamilton was the drill master. Sammy Hamilton was one of the founders of this Grace Ferry based string band. You know, they called them South Philadelphia, but they are from the Grace Ferry neighborhood.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next featured performance, the third of our 5 featured performances. And who's that going to be, Ron?
Yeah, so Jim talks about Greater Bucks being the first band to win first prize. It was a non-association band. And then Palmyra 1972 is the second non-association band to win first prize. The next band we're going to show you did not win first prize this particular year that they're speaking of, but this is the Harrogate string band who had already won 2 first prizes back-to-back 1976 and 77, which were transformative themes for this parade. But take a look at this theme by Harrogate. It's called Portrait of a Mummer.
Comes the captain now, leading the band, Al Carango. There's Al Carango from Levittown, Pennsylvania.
And you know, this nostalgic salute, their theme, A Portrait to the Mummer, to the old style Mummery, is presented with a dramatic innovation. Instead of back pieces, you'll notice all of these members of the bands are wearing front pieces. I'm sure we'll be seeing more front pieces in the Mummer parades to come.
Harrogate String Band, Captain Al Carango, President Joe Volker, Musical Director George Rudin. Bravo performance for 1982 as Harrogate makes their exit. And we'll be back with more string band excitement.
This is one I hadn't really looked at for many years. It may be one of the themes, one of the performances that kind of gets forgotten, but it is unique. I mean, they called it Portrait of a Mummer, and this was the first band to do a front piece as opposed to a back piece. So each member was actually inside of this picture frame, and then at a certain point, not unlike what Palmyra did with that idea, the front of the picture frame drops down, and they have the simulation of the fancy captain suit. This captain, Al Carango, Al was one of the most unassuming, sweetest, nicest, guys that you could know in terms of the mummers and string bands. And he really, over his years as captain, he had some really outstanding, unique, three-dimensional, encircling costumes and back pieces. This was no exception. That he comes in with the inside the frame, but then it does drop down, and the other part comes above his head, and it's just this beautiful abstract creation that just adds another feather to Harrogate's creative memory. Musically,
take a look, and please tell everyone what you and I had discussed about Al's back piece when it was a picture frame in front of him, the side view of that. You had made an observation about that.
Yeah, I wondered if what it was meant to depict was an old-fashioned camera, the piece of it that would have been kind of behind the camera, like the photographer is kind of looking in and has I don't even know what you would call it, but an old-fashioned camera where the photographer would be kind of underneath of some material, but there was a contraption of some sort. It was an old-fashioned camera, yes. And then musically, we touched on last week the Sunbeam Bread commercial, and for Portrait of a Mummer, Harrogate uses the Paul Anka song called Do You Remember the Times of Your Life, which was for Kodak. So Portrait of a Mummer, photos, Kodak. It all, it just makes sense. And I think it also underscores when people wonder, how do these scores get put together for a particular theme? And the theme committees, the music directors and arrangers, everybody comes together, and they have a lot of different source material. It could come from commercials, could come from Broadway, it could come from film or television. Those were all great, and still are great source material, along with popular music of the time or from a different era. So now we're going to conclude the fifth performance that we're showing for our tradition New Year's Memories New Year's Eve show tonight. So we're concluding really with what we agree, Ron and I agree, and I think a lot of fans will agree, is one of the best and brightest traditional themes to go up Broad Street. Led by the late Captain Bill Spezial, it's the Furco string band as they take us to the Strutter's Ball. Let's take a look. So this Ron, this is another, it's really a symbol of everything that everybody loves about the traditional mummers, string band, music, costume, performance. What do you remember having seen it again now? What are your memories of this particular year?
My memories of it is really just watching it on TV, because as a performer, and as you were at one time, you were in the parade this year. You were with Hegeman, with the Gypsies.
I did. I was in, Gypsy in my soul. Mm-hmm.
So this was a tough year for the mummers. I mean, New Year's morning, it started to snow. That snow was very wet and heavy. Things were starting to look very bad for us. So the first number of string bands were put on buses and driven into the city, as opposed to us. I think I was in Woodland. I think we marched third at the time. We were very early, and we were put on the buses very quickly and driven up to and beyond Washington Avenue. That's where we got off of the buses. Some bands insisted they were not getting on buses, and here's the reason why. With Furco's costumes in particular, the hats were too tall. The suits had these extensions on them with these pom-poms hanging. It wouldn't be possible for them to board a bus altogether. It's not going to happen. So Furco marches the entire parade. So when you see them on TV, you won't see it in this video because we have to cut things to make it short. But if you're watching the long version, they show that Furco string band coming around the corner, and it was just stunning. Just absolutely stunning. Now, this Furco string band is probably the what I call the epitome of what a string band really sounds like. We all have our different ideas, but Furco had always maintained a great balance of instrumentation between banjos, accordions, saxophones, the rhythm section. What they offered more so than any other bands, not that other bands didn't have them, they certainly did, but Furco also had a few violins that really gave it just that sweet, we call it the Furco sound, because nobody has ever been able to duplicate this sound. Fralinger is the wall of sound. They're a big sax band, and they play the coolest things. Furco just, steeped in old time standards and ragtime, and they were just the greatest at doing it.
Yeah, and you knew when you heard Furco approaching. Like you said, it was smooth, it was balanced, it was sweet. They were very much, particularly in this year, where there was a little bit of Mardi Gras included in this. But it's very traditional as it builds to its finale with this unique arrangement of golden slippers. And when we think about, we did our first show called The Amazing 80s, and they were. So this is the last year of the Amazing 80s. It's so interesting that while there were a lot of very progressive, unique, prize-winning themes, this performance did not win. It was not the winner that year, but it closed out the decade with this very traditional flourish. Musically, when we talk about musical directors and arrangers over the years, Furco is known for at least two of the best, Curly Connors and John Gilbert, who were, we would refer to them as musical impresarios, for the way that they actually conducted. They were conductors of the band. They had stature and reputations, for the way that Furco was, the way their music was put together, the way it was performed, and it had that, really unique sound.
Yeah, and playing under those gentlemen was a big charge, especially for younger guys who already knew about them. Now, I didn't know either one personally, but I did sit in rehearsals and at a couple of concerts as the drummer for Furco at one time. Under their direction, directing their music. And that's the big thrill. This Furco string band comes on the heels of other music directors and arrangers that were just unbelievable. Bill DeBias, Bill Stever, Ray Malik wrote a couple of their shows back in those days as well. And Ray Malik is an amazing, amazing arranger. And certainly one guy who needs to be recognized today. Unfortunately, we lost this gentleman on Christmas Eve, Johnny Jordan. Johnny Jordan was just an absolute incredible human being, so much fun to be around. We had the great pleasure, when I say we, I'm talking about the Trilby String Band. We had the great pleasure of having John Jordan come in after New Year's of 1992. And Johnny Jordan really raised the playing level of the organization, and his arrangements were always so much fun to play. I can think of one off the top of my head, Besame Mucho was just an amazing arrangement of his. And the most important piece of music he ever wrote for the Trilby String Band was Trilby's 1996, A Piece of Harmony. I just got to show you this. This is a tribute to John, by the way, and a great memory of him.
That's great. That's terrific.
So
yeah,
that's
he
that's
was
Johnny Jordan, and he is going to be one person that I will miss for a very long time.
Yeah, he was a wonderful, wonderful person. He was a wonderful person, very dedicated to mummers and to string bands, and he will be sorely missed. Our hearts go out, our condolences go out to his entire family, and I think we have some photographs right now that will come up of you, Ron. Can you tell us about those?
I don't know what order they'll come up in. Our editor TJ, he's like a magician, this guy. So I'll talk about the couple of photos in this order. Johnny was very dedicated to his position with the Trilby String Band. And so you'll see a picture maybe of me holding his daughter, Caitlin. And the funny story about that, why is it me holding Caitlin? Because Johnny always called me after this Ronnie the Clown, because Caitlin was just a baby then, and she would call me Ronnie the Clown. So I was forever to Johnny after that, Ronnie the Clown. So that was like a him and I thing together. You'll also see a picture of Johnny walking across the front of the band. You don't see his face. It's kind of walking away. And what he's doing there is he's going through the pace of his music being played by Trilby String Band, making sure that we're doing his arrangements justice. And then there's a third picture of Johnny being very patient with me, because as I'm talking now, you'll see that I'm talking in that picture, even though it's just a picture. But what we're doing is we're conferring on a recording session that Johnny wrote every arrangement on that recording session. It was very important to him. He did an amazing job, and just, I don't know what else to say. My heart is broken. My heart is broken for Beth, his wife, and again, Caitlin, his daughter. Just a lovely, lovely man.
Yeah, I agree. So that's obviously very emotional. It's been a very emotional week for those of us who knew and respected and will miss John. But as we find ourselves right now, it's New Year's Eve. There will not be a parade tomorrow, as we said. But in certainly all the years past, certainly for me, this week between Christmas and New Year's, and particularly getting to New Year's Eve night, full of nerves, full of excitement, just looking forward to tomorrow, looking forward to the parade. Some years we had to wait a couple of days because of weather postponements. But as we said at the beginning, we haven't in our lives experienced a cancellation of the parade as everyone's going to experience tomorrow. So we just want to recognize this This show is a string band show, but it's a mummers show. It's about this amazing folk tradition that exists in Philadelphia. And we just wanted to, recognize the other divisions that are all feeling the same sadness and same emotion tonight, from the comics to the wenches, to the fancies, and to the fancy brigades as well. These photos just demonstrate just everything that's special about New Year's Day in Philadelphia and the way it has been for the past 120 years. Tomorrow would have been the 120th anniversary parade, and we're going to have to wait 1 year to celebrate that anniversary. We will all be sad tomorrow, but happily for us, the broadcast partner for the Mummers, WPHL 17 in Philadelphia, will be broadcasting 13 hours tomorrow, the Mummers Parade of the Decade. So they're going to draw from performances over the past 10 years to provide everyone with the fun and the excitement and the entertainment that we all look forward to on New Year's Day. So starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow, I'm sure we'll be watching, and you'll all be watching as well, so that we can remember the past 10 years and also begin to think about the countdown to 2022.
Jim, don't you have any New Year's Eve memories or traditions? Like, what do you do on New Year's Eve? Like, I want to know what you do on New Year's Eve. What is your tradition?
I have never done much on New Year's Eve because of the parade and because of my heightened nerves and excitement. I mean, just typically, something family oriented or, going out to dinner, but never anything that would extend, much past midnight, because I would almost not be able to sleep. My first year marching was 1973. I mentioned that earlier with Hegeman's Winter Fantasy. So I will conclude and then hand off to you for your memory. But so 1973, bell player in Hegeman, marching up the street. It was the warmest New Year's on record. And so here we are playing a winter theme, and it was really warm. But we did the performance, numerous times up Broad Street, as everyone did. And so, at some point, I turned to the guy next to me and said, when are we going to be judged? And he said, that was several blocks ago. And I didn't even realize, probably it was for the best, that, I didn't realize that one of the performances was the one in front of the judges. And so I won't forget that. That's, it's your first year. I was, 15 years old, and it was really, really, really special to me, and always will be. Give us yours. Give us a memory that has stuck with you through all of your parades.
Well, first and foremost, I'm surprised at how much alike we are, in the sense that with this mummer stuff, I mean, Jim and I are like kids in a candy shop talking about this stuff all the time. But on New Year's Eve, I don't do anything. I rarely stay up past midnight. I need to get in bed. I need to have my rest, because all my focus is on the following day. That ball dropping in New York City, I could care less, man. I need to get to sleep. Tomorrow is my day. My father, when the last present was opened on Christmas morning, he'd be like, all right, Christmas is over. Let's get it on. New Year's is next week. Let's get ready. And that whole week would just be filled with tension. You got to understand, all of us in our family, at certain times in our careers, we were in different bands, so we were competing against each other as well. So there was that. And so New Year's Eve is off limits for me. I go now. Tonight might be a different story. There's no parade tomorrow. I may stay up, go out on my front step, bang some pots and pans, maybe play my banjo a little bit for my neighbors,
Yeah.
and call 2020 a hellacious and year that we want to all forget really quick.
Yeah.
But as far as a couple of memories, you know, one that sticks in my mind always will. I was in South Philadelphia String Band 1985, a parade that was postponed not just once, but twice, probably the only time in the history of the parade postponed twice in a year due to weather. So the drill master of the band at the time was Ronnie Francisconi, and my brother Joe was the show director. Ronnie says, can we go, after we go to St. Gabriel's, because South Philadelphia, I mentioned Grace Ferry, where St. Gabriel's Parish is, that's where we used to rehearse. So we would go and play for the priests and the nuns at the parish, and then head over to Broad and Bigler. This particular year there, Ron Francisconi's grandfather, of all things, his name was, believe it or not, Frank Sinatra. And he lived somewhere around 15th and I want to say Morris Street. I know it was behind the hospital somewhere, St. Agnes Hospital, right? So no problem, let's go play for Frank, longtime member of the band and everything like that. So we go over, get off of the buses go around the corner, and we assume nothing at this point. We get out, we play for Frank. Now we're going to go around the corner where the buses are, get back on the buses, and then head south. We turned the corner, there were no buses. The buses left us there. We had to run, that South Philadelphia String Band had to run from 15th and Morris all the way down to Broad and Bigler. You had to be in the parade back there.
Yeah.
The official start point was Snyder Avenue, but you had to be in line back at Marconi Plaza. And I'm telling you, every last member, the old, the young, the sick, the well, we were all, one of the members, by the way, Jim, one of the members of that South Philadelphia String Band was a very young, talented sax player by the name of Angelo Lutz.
Wow.
That's when I met Angelo back in 1984 for that
1985
parade. And we've been friends ever since. So great memory, a funny memory. We've got tons more to share, but Jim's going to tell you when that's going to happen.
Yes. So we're happy to be spending some time with everyone on New Year's Eve 2020. So we do want to remind you before we officially wish you Happy New Year. We do want to remind you that on Saturday evening, January 2nd, the Palandro Ferry Memorial Foundation will be hosting a virtual event, part of which will be the premiere of the For Them documentary that the foundation has produced. As everyone knows, January 2nd of 2 years ago, of 2019, a tragic accident occurred, and we lost 3 young people, Denny Palandro Jr. and Joe Ferry from the South Philadelphia String Band, and Joe's fiance, Kelly Wisely. So the foundation was created in their memory, and we've produced this documentary. So it will be part of a fundraising event on Saturday, this Saturday, January 2nd. You can find out about it by contacting Denny Palandro, the captain of South Philadelphia, Denny Jr.'s father. His email address is coming up on screen. You can also check out the foundation's Facebook page, website, and there will also be availability to watch the film on the new YouTube channel for the foundation. So if you can support the event, that would be amazing. It will be a fundraiser, but there will be a prize wheel, so you'll have an opportunity to win some prizes. It will be emceed by DJ Jimmy Mulholland, so there'll be lots of music and stories, and hopefully you can enjoy a few hours of this on Saturday. And before we finally conclude this show, we just want to thank again our sponsor, MCS Residential Contractors and Greg Meisinger. It's an excellent company for pre-construction, design development, whatever the project is. They'll work with you, they'll work with your budget. They will be safe, they will be professional. You can contact them at the number on your screen right now. Estimates are free. They are licensed and insured, and all staff are OSHA Hour 30 trained. So please support them, support our sponsor. We're very grateful to them. And so with that, I will say, Happy New Year, everyone. Let's hope we turn the page and 2021 is a much better year for everyone. Happy New Year, Ron.
Jim, to you and Larry, Happy New Year. To everybody, mummers, chin up, chin up. Happy New Year. To my family, I love you all. Happy New Year.
Yes, we'll see you next week. Take care.